in the back. I'm going to read because that will be better for everybody. Thank you all for coming. Big thank you to all of the volunteers that are here with us. Big thank you to Spencer Pletcher and Brian Pletcher for recording. Really appreciate it. We are live on Facebook right now too, if anyone needs to tell your friends. And the video recording will be available after this. Thank you to Julia's staff who are here and helping us with logistics. And mostly I want to thank everyone here for coming and being engaged citizens. We need more of them. And that's what Conejo Indivisible is all about, getting involved. And speaking out and making our voices loud and clear. I want to thank Congresswoman Brownley for being here to hear our voices. And if you're not yet part of our Indivisible group, we're on Facebook and you can sign up. We have an email list outside that you can add your name to, and I'll add you to the list. And I don't want to take up any more valuable time, so I'll hand it over to Megan, my co-leader at Indivisible.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Megan Goebel. I use she, her pronouns, and since he didn't introduce himself, this is Scott Venata. So if you this would not be possible. Thank you for all your hard work putting this together, Scott. I am very excited today to be here. It's, I think, a really important day for all of us to hear more. We have youth in the front, my kiddos here in the back, Scott's daughter's here as well. It's really important for all of us to, and we've got more kids in the back too, so that's even, that's awesome. Without further ado, I would like to introduce the co-founder of Indivisible Conejo, who is also a dear friend and mentor of mine, and will be moderating today's town hall, and that is John. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
And welcome to what promises to be another one of those
louder,
drab, uneventful, drama-free congressional town halls that we've all been hearing about this month. We're very excited to be presenting this event with Congresswoman Brownley. It's her first, and definitely not her last, in-person town hall of this 119th and hopefully not last Congress. It's great to see so many folks here from across California's 26th district. Now look, we all recognize that passions are running hot these days, and we all know why. It's an alarming and perhaps defining moment for our country. And we're all here looking for answers to the threats that face us from within our own government. I know a lot of you came here today expecting some unruliness, some arguments. Maybe some of you are even here hoping to participate in some unruly arguments. But I'm just going to encourage everybody before we start to keep our heads and to be respectful as we discuss these incredibly important issues that face us. Before we go any further, can a quick show of hands. Is there anybody for whom this is your first Indivisible related event?
Oh.
Wow.
Thank you so much for coming. And could I get another show of hands of folks for whom this is your first time in a room with Congresswoman Brownley? Very good. Okay, well, I'm going to get rid of my part of my introduction that says this person needs no introduction. Julia Brownley began her political career as a school board trustee, later was a California State Assembly member, and she's now in her 7th term representing California's 26th district. She's the ranking member of the Committee on Veterans Affairs Subcommittee on Health. And speaking personally, she's been incredibly generous with both her time and her rhetorical energy at Indivisible events over the last 8 and a quarter years. And we are very appreciative of everything that you have done with Indivisible. And we hope that we've been as good a friend to you as you've been to us. So we're going to start with some remarks. There will be questions. I know a lot of you submitted questions in advance. I know a lot of you have written questions this morning. We got almost 200 questions. And spoiler alert, they're not all going to get asked this morning. So please be patient, please be understanding. And with that, Congresswoman Julie Brownley.
The most important thank you is to say thank you for being here today. It really means a great deal. It just shows how much this community cares, and we're going to do something about it, right? Right. I also want to thank Scott and Megan for putting this event together. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you, John, for being here. And I think sort of returning to your real roots, your real invisible home right here. So thank you for coming here today. We really, really appreciate it. He's been a great founder, as was said, a founder, but just a great, great advocate for so very, very, very long. And we've done some good things together. So, let me start today with some good news.
Bring it on.
The good news is 34,000 great Americans protested in Denver and in other cities. Great, and that's what we're going to do here in the county and in the state. So I can't skip over last week's vote on the continuing resolution. I voted no. I voted no because I believe it was a blank check to a corrupt, lawless administration, undermining Congress's power, stripping away essential guidance and guardrails, and leaving taxpayer dollars vulnerable to executive overreach, and moving Trump and Musk closer to achieving their goals of weaponizing the federal workforce, dismantling programs. All programs are important, but like Social Security, like Medicare, like Medicaid, and only to enrich their MAGA billionaire buddies. Like you, I was really angry that Chuck Schumer allowed the CR to pass in the Senate. We gave away our leverage, and with a Republican in the White House and a Republican majority in Congress, we do not have many moments with some leverage these days. And worse, he gave it away without getting anything in return. But no matter how angry we are, we cannot allow it to distract us from the fight against Trump. I know one of your first questions today is going to be, what am I going to do to stop him, and what are Democrats going to do to stop him? So first, let me just say that my colleagues and I are supporting in every way possible the more than 120 lawsuits and counting against Trump's actions. And for the most part, we are winning those lawsuits. As a matter of fact, of the cases heard so far, we have won 46 injunctions, and 2 cases have been declined by the Supreme Court. That's good. We've got more to do, but that is good. Second, We are writing legislation to rein in Trump while Democratic legislation won't currently make it to the floor. It's important that we get prepared for when we take the gavel back or when things start to change in Washington during this 119th Congress. That can happen. Which leads to the third priority, which will very soon be our first priority, and that is to take back control of the House in 2020. Without control of the White House, the Senate, and the House, our ability to stop Trump is not what we would like it to be. 2026 might seem like a long way away, but I can assure you it is just around the corner, and we have to be ready for it. We have to educate ourselves, then educate our friends, our family, community members, and then we have to mobilize like we have never mobilized before. And we need to keep our eye on the ball. We are living in a time when the hardest challenge isn't just fighting for what's right, but it's also breaking through all the noise. Lies and distractions are everywhere, and they are designed to divide us and wear us down. But we are here today because we refuse to let false narratives overshadow the truth. Just as Bernie and AOC said yesterday and the day before, we can't let him tear us apart. We must stand united. We must stand united in protecting our democracy. We must stand united in protecting Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. We must stand united in protecting civil rights and civil liberties. We must stand united in protecting the LGBTQ+ community. And stand united in protecting the immigrant community. United in protecting our nation's veterans and to keep our solemn promise. And most importantly, we must stand united in our fight for the working families against an unprecedented assault from the billionaire class. So what can we do? First, I'd like to go back a little bit in time and go back to 2017. Things felt pretty dire then in 2017. Trump just beat Hillary Clinton, and his number one priority was to kill the Affordable Care Act. And yet, we all know this, he failed. And he failed because the American people and all of you stood up and spoke out. We did not agonize, we organized. We attended town halls across the country, went to the streets, and we made a lot of noise. We fought back and we won. And we have to do it again. And this time, I have to say, it's going to be even harder. So, look. Still, there are so many folks who are sitting at home right now. They are scared, they're feeling alone, they're feeling helpless. I know because I'm hearing from them every single day. So if they can see all of us on the streets protesting, whether we are a large gathering or whether we are a small one, they will see that they are not alone. And they will see that our feelings are like their own. They will see their neighbors, they'll see their friends, and maybe folks they go to church with, and they will figure out that all of this is not normal. And maybe they, too, will come out the next time, and our opposition will grow. So, big or small, that protest is really important. This is what we all need to do, and we need to do it community by community, town by town, county by county, and state by state. It's been a tough 2 months. It's hard to believe. It's only been 2 months. I think it's been 62 days. today. And I'm as mad as all of you. And I'm committed with all the energy I can muster to the fight ahead. And I know you are here because you are too. And I know there are millions of Americans across the country just like you. And I know that when we raise our voices, we will win. We will not be cowed not to speak up. And we are not going to let Trump or anyone else take away our Social Security, our Medicare, and Medicaid so that Trump and his MAGA billionaire buddies can get even richer. That is not going to happen. We must stand and stay united and hold each other tight as we march through this really bad, never seen before, really disruptive storm. And we will make our voices loud and clear. I'd like to say this is a John Lewis moment for all of us. We are the people with the ultimate power. And we will stand up, and we will speak out, and we will fight hard. And when we fight, we will win. So thank you again for being here, and I'm looking forward to your questions.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. A couple quick logistical items. Is there anybody who has been writing a question since you got to your seats and has it ready to submit to our volunteers? If you do, please hold up your card and someone will collect it. We're gonna have folks come up to the microphones, which Megan and Scott are holding, in clumps of 3 or 4, and while you start coming up, as I call your names, I'm going to ask Congresswoman Brownley a bit of a ringer question, just sort of to get the ball rolling. So anyway, our first names are Clint F. from Thousand Oaks, Iris E. from Agora Hills, and Aaron H. from Camarillo, and Laura H. from Moorpark. If you all would come up to the microphones, Laura specifically, I believe your card is held by Megan, so if you would go up to Megan. Otherwise, go to whoever's closest.
We're doing this one question at a time.
Yes.
Remember that. Well, we'll see how this goes. We'll see how this goes.
No problem.
Clint F., Iris E., Aaron H., and Laura H.
And those folks are coming to Megan.
All of them?
Yes, and then we'll send it to you.
Okay, fine. Whatever you say. I'm just here. Okay, Congresswoman, to start. Earlier this month, Trump announced a restructuring that would result in the firings of 80,000 employees of the Department of Veterans Affairs. He already fired 6,000 permanent workers from the agency, as well as 2,400 probationary employees. The VA, as we all know, serves millions of veterans nationwide and tens of thousands here in Ventura County. And a significant portion of the agency's workforce are veterans themselves. We know that veterans health care is a topic that's very near and dear to you. Do you believe the VA can function effectively with these cuts? And do you have any sense that your Republican colleagues on the subcommittee on health have any reservations about these cuts and might be willing to work together to fight against them?
Thank you for the question. So, and you have all your facts, whoever has the question, you have all your facts straight. I do think
That was
it's
me.
Actually, it's 83 cents. So we've had many VA subcommittee meetings and full committee meetings in Congress so far. And the number one topic, if if you read Project 2025, their number one thing to do with the VA is to privatize the delivery of health care to our country. That's what they want to do. And we have so there are Republicans on the committee who have put forward these bills. The chairman of the committee has put forward bills to just begin this process of really privatization. It's an argument right now between the veterans getting their health care within the VA and veterans getting their health care in the community. And we provide community health care for veterans because the VA doesn't provide all of the health care that it needs to provide. I've advocated for women veterans for a long time, since I've been in Congress. And most of the services that women need around their reproductive health and pregnancy and so forth they can't be taken care of at the VA. So we have to use the community for that. But we don't want to get rid of the VA, and veterans don't want to get rid of the VA. And these cuts, let me just say that before these cuts were even announced, we were wrestling with already 40,000 vacancies within the VA. So you have to understand, the VA is the second largest agency in Congress, defense being the largest. So, there are a lot of people. And there are a lot of VA hospitals and clinics like we have here in the county, across the country. So this is there is no doubt whatsoever that this is going to harm veterans. Some veterans will likely die because of it. Veterans are going to be harmed across the board. And new veterans coming in, trying to get their rating, which is to get their disability rating in order to get health care services within the VA, that's going to be delayed for months and months and months and months and months. So it's going to be really bad. We passed a huge bill, one of the most important bills for VA health care in decades, to make sure that all veterans who are exposed to toxic burn pits, to Agent Orange in Vietnam, automatically, whether it's whatever it is, whatever they're suffering from, whether it's cancer or so forth, because they fought and they were in certain places around the country, and that they would automatically get their health care. And we hired tons of people to make this happen. The Biden administration and Secretary McDonough, I'm giving a long answer, I know, but it's the one thing I know a lot about. Secretary McDonough, they went after this in a huge way to address as many veterans as quickly as possible. And that all happened. Now they've already cut about $26 million away from that program in the continuing resolution. They did that. So they have a lot more to go, but in the continuing resolution, they cut that. So they're already saying, no, this is going way, way too fast, and we just want to talk about the privatization. So don't be fooled by anyone who says that we're not going to privatize the VA. And so you asked about any Republicans on the committee who seem to be, struggling with this a little bit. I think there are a few. We had a hearing where we were going to go over bills. These bills, again, were predecessors to their goal of privatization. And we, Democrats, we were all prepared to ask some really tough questions. And guess what? They canceled the meeting because there were too many Republicans who did not want to have to vote for something that they knew their constituents would not like. So that's happening committee by committee by committee, I should say. So I will end here.
Okay, a reminder, our first four questioners are Clint F., Iris E., Aaron H., and Laura H., and we'll start with Clint, who I believe is Scott.
Hello, my name is Clint, and I'm from Thousand Oaks. Thank you for being here. What are you doing to push back against the current administration's attack on the environment and climate?
Thank you for the question. Thank you, Clint, for being here. We are fighting hard. Obviously, the administration is, cutting funds, cutting people. They reinstated people, then they put them on administrative leave within the EPA, what's happening with DOD and the like. So our power is limited, and you have to understand that. But we're fighting step by step. I'll give you a good example. At the very beginning of the Trump administration, they clawed back all of these funds that were allocated to various entities across the country for grants. And these were all under the EPA. These were all environmental grant money that happened under the Biden administration, that happened under the Inflation Reduction Act. And so all of this money that was going out to folks. And right here in Ventura County, there was a $50 million grant that was going to the Port of Hueneme. The Port of Hueneme got a clean port grant. Port Hueneme, I will say, is one of the cleanest ports across the country, but they want to get to zero emissions at the port. So they had already started this because it was a signed contract. It was a signed contract. They were doing the work, and this is what happens. You do the work, then you get reimbursed by the federal government. So they came back to the federal government to get reimbursed, and they said, sorry, we claw back those funds. So that's just one example of how we have to fight in Congress, and we have to fight the little battles as well as the big battles, to stop things, to stop bad things from happening, and we will continue to do so. I think the bigger fight, or not the bigger, I shouldn't say that, but the big fight is ahead of us, and that is around the reconciliation bill that they want to do to make sure that they can give, billions of dollars to the richest people, the wealthiest people in our country, to give them tax breaks. So in order to do that, in order to get there, in terms of what they want to do, they are looking at the Inflation Reduction Act as a place where they can claw back a lot of money, because a lot of that money has not been spent, and a lot of that money is our tax incentives, tax rebates, tax refunds, and the like. So a reconciliation bill just simply means that the Senate only needs 50 votes. Obviously in the House, it's the same, but they don't need that 2/3 vote in the Senate. But the reconciliation bill is not putting together a lot of laws. All they're doing, honestly, is looking at the tax codes and saying, what's going to change, how we can make a tax code better, how we can take things away. And that's what they're looking at. So they're looking at all of those things, those tax incentives in terms of electric cars. It goes on, people insulating their homes, solar panels. There's a whole slew of things where people can get really good tax credit. So they're going to want to get rid of all of that, and we're going to fight, not to let them invade the Inflation Reduction.
The next question comes from Iris. Iris is here. Iris is not here.
Yes.
Who is she gone?
I have Laura and I have Aaron.
All right, well, let's go to Aaron then.
Hi, thank you for coming today. I'm from Camarillo. My question is, why have the Democratic members of Congress not pursued impeachment? Judges have been ruling that actions of the administration have been unlawful. In my opinion, Trump advance need to be impeached before it's too late.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. Thank you for being here. So impeachment is certainly a power given to Congress to impeach both the president and also judges, federal judges, and Supreme Court justices. So that is a power given to Congress to do. and we saw it exercised. So, the process for impeachment is that you've got to have a positive vote in Congress to move forward. First, you have to hear the case. I think that's open book, easy to justify, albeit the Republicans have the gavel. So that's the reason. I mean, we're not going to put up an impeachment vote that is just going to get smushed, and then they're going to say, oh, those Republicans, we don't have everybody with us yet. We've got to keep fighting to bring people on board and bring people on our side. But I will say, don't take it off the table. Because it is a power given to Congress by Article 1 in the Constitution, and we cannot give up that power because as time goes forward, I mean, we're 62 days into this. What are things going to look like 3 months from now, 4 months from now, 5 months from now? It could look really different, and it could look better for us because more people are realizing, I didn't vote for this, and I'm not going to vote for it again. And they're going to come to our side. And when that happens, I think that's when we move forward to impeach this god-awful tyrant in the White House.
Before Laura asks her question, I'll call up the next set of folks. John L. from CB. Susan K. from Camarillo, and then Susan K. from Thousand Oaks.
Those two Susan K's.
Yeah, I know. The whole crowd. Okay, so Laura, please.
Good morning. I'm Laura from Moore Park, and I actually have my question here, and then what you were saying made me think of another question. So,
Okay. Sure.
So I'm a retired special ed teacher. I worked in public schools, my children attended public schools, and my heart is just broken over what's happening with the Department of Education. So that is my big concern. How are these programs going to get funded? How are these children going to get educated? And then my second thing, just if you have you were talking about veterans and their program getting privatized. If you could just explain why that's not a good thing for them.
Why it's
not good to have their services privatized, their health services.
Very good. I'll take the last question first. So veterans don't want the VA to be privatized. They want to go into VA hospitals and clinics. And the main reason is that when they walk into that facility, every doctor, nurse, any clinician, anybody within the VA understands what the men and women who are walking through those facilities, they understand what they have been through right off the bat. And particularly when you talk about mental health, going to a mental health person out in the community that has no idea what this person might have gone through, have any sense, the veteran can tell them, but they don't have the picture. So that's why veterans don't want it. And the other thing, people say, oh, well, the VA is, they run their operation inefficiently. It could do better, and there might be some truth to that. But the real truth is that our doctors and nurses are spending more time with our veterans in that examination room than they would be out in the community. Out in the community, it's like 15 minutes, you're done, make your appointment, we'll see you next year. But with the VA, it's not like that. They will spend the time needed for the veteran, and that's why. I mean, it's really simple. That's why they don't want to privatize the VA. Now, on the educational question, I really appreciate the question. Education is near and dear to my heart. I was a school board member. Where did my question go? Okay, very good. I was a school board member for 12 years. I went to the state legislature. I chaired the education committee, K through 12. I actually sat in the committee for higher ed as well. So public school is really, really important to me. This was this was one thing that, you know, Trump would say, oh, I don't know anything about Project 2025. I'm not going to read it. But they kept saying they were going to shut down and close the Department of Education. They made it really, really clear. So what they're doing, I mean, the impacts are going to be quite severe. Now, most of the money, I think that money, I think there was an article in today's paper, the Ventura County Star, that said the county education department said that the funding that they get from the federal agency is about 10% of their budget. 10% is a big deal, but there's still 90% of those funds coming in because most of that money comes in, from the state, and that's the way it works. But it is those critical funds that come from the Department of Education. This is special education. I have a daughter who is, I think, 38 years old now, but she was a special needs kid in school, and we had IEPs and the like. Special education is huge. Never going to get what children get in the public schools outside of the public schools. And even kids who go to private schools can come to the public school to get those services. So that's huge. Title I funding is another really big one. So schools are all that extra things, and I would always argue they are never extra, but all of those things that special education, Title I, ESEA funding, all fund things like your counselors, your kids who need special help, who are English language learners and trying to learn the language, getting special help. I mean, it runs the gambit of all of those important positions within schools that just will be almost impossible to fund. And we always have known, and since I've been a school board member, this has been true, that the special education funding, it's called IDEA, the IDEA funding, it never covers the needs of special education within the school district, so it always requires the school district to spend more dollars, and as they should, because we need to help these kids and make sure that they get the resources they need. But that's just not going to be there. So it's again, this is going to be another fight. But those are some of the impacts. And if you're a teacher, you know that. And it will be pretty severe in school districts across the board. But listening to their rhetoric it just makes me so angry because they talk about wastefulness. Well, the amount of people at the Department of Education might be about the same amount of money in a small school district. It's not that many people when you think of all the other agencies that are around there. These people know what they're doing. They know how to administer these critical funds. And they're going to say, okay, well, then they say, oh, well, we're not going to cut it. We're just going to give them to the school districts. Well, hopefully that's the case. But that's not their intention whatsoever, because you got to go back there. They are looking at monies to pay for the tax cut for billionaires. That's the whole deal. The whole deal. That's the whole focus. It's finding those dollars. It's like Musk going after red meat, so we will fight. But again, I'll go back to our voices and getting out on the streets, because the power is within all of you and the people across the country.
Okay, our next questioner is John L. from CME, followed by Susan K. and Susan K. And then Britta P. from Camarillo. If you would also come up, please.
Welcome. Welcome and thank you, John Apper from Simi Valley. unfortunately the only one of 10 Ventura County cities that carried for Trump. But through Indivisible CD and 50501, we are fighting like hell. You answered my original question about Schumer, so I'm going to toss another one. We're all aware of the gang members, so-called, the roundup of 250 that were taken to the El Salvador prisons. And I know there's some individual lawyers fighting for it.
Yep.
What can the Congress do to demand a list of the 250 people and what their offenses were charged as?
We are demanding those lists. Whether we get those lists is an entirely different question, but we are demanding it. And, you know, what they have done, and in essence, I mean, I guess we can argue whether they have defied the courts on this or not. I mean, I think the people who are legal scholars would say they're really close to defying, but they haven't quite crossed the line yet. But you don't defy court orders. So we're demanding it. I don't really have a good answer. I think I have a better answer in terms of, what we need to do if they begin to defy court orders. And we all know that we're in a constitutional crisis. That is not up for debate. That we are right in the middle. We are right smack in the middle of it. And if that continues to happen, that's kind of the end. I mean, once you defy the Supreme Court, so really, once you defy the Supreme Court, really the only remedy is a positive election and putting things back into order again. And so it is, at the end of the day, this might sound a little bit repetitive, but it is the power of the people in getting to the streets. I think Trump, he likes to be liked. There's small little things that happen when, after this last couple of days with Bernie and AOC. You can feel some of the things that he kind of is pulling back on a little bit because he wants to be liked. I mean, but he's putting Musk out there to do it all to kind of say, well, I didn't do anything. He's doing a good job. But it is, I think, the ultimate remedy to all of this is getting to the streets.
Okay, Susan from Camarillo, then Susan from Thousand Oaks, and then Britta.
I will say on that too is that just want to add that I don't think today we understand that he is going too far. But there's still many Americans, and many probably in Simi Valley, who don't think they've crossed the line, and they don't think that they've gone too far. But I think that is going to change. I just feel this in my bones, that this is going to change. And I just go back to the analogy of we're 62 days into this. What is it going to look like 3 months from now? What is it going to look like 4 months from now? And that's when we really go in for the kill.
Hi, I'm the Susan K. from Camarillo. Susan the question is, how do we protect our national parks, our national monuments, national recreation areas, and our marine areas from exploitation? And also, how do we get our park rangers and biologists such as Keenan Chan, who is doing such important marine studies just off our Channel Islands? And I know that they say that they're going to have them come back. Is that realistic? What do we do with this mess?
Well, I do think, as of last Thursday anyway, the administration has said to return 1,000 of those people in national parks. And national recreational areas and the like to move those people back in. Now, the VC Star reported today that there were a number of people who were being interviewed who were working at the park who were saying they're coming back. So hopefully that is true. I think, and the same thing for the Santa Monica Mountains as well. So I think national parks, there's certain issues are kind of the Achilles heel in all of this, where people just get sort of outraged, and I think in a nonpartisan way, people get really outraged. You know, and spring is sprung, and you know, people are going to want to get out with their families and camp and go to national parks and all of that. And when they see the disarray, when they see bathrooms not clean the way they should be, you know, the most hysterical thing was they laid off the person in Yosemite that had the key. But I think this is the Achilles heel, that people are going to be outraged on all of this. And again, I think that's, you know, I think that's where our power is. I think the law actually is slightly unclear about who has the power to shut down the national park. There are some national parks that are in law and protected, but not all national parks are. I'm sure you're familiar with the Antiquities Act, where presidents have the ability to determine an open space of land and make it a national monument, and Trump is clawing back, clawing back a lot of those national monuments, particularly the ones that Obama put forward. And so it's, you know, revenge. But I think we're, you know, I think this is a battle that we have a better chance of winning on the national parks, just because people really care about their national parks. People want to go to their national parks. And like I said, it's kind of like the one of the Achilles heels that I think we can leverage on and move forward. But make no mistake, we will fight. Yeah.
Our next Susan Kay, please.
Hi, Susan Kay from Thousand Oaks. Thank you for being here and for listening. I've seen videos of people saying that the election was compromised, both in 2020 and 2024. A bell curve showing it was not normal, and this was a video on YouTube, and I have it, and I'm happy to show it to you. We're saying that that all 7 swing states not only couldn't all go for Trump, but that the bell curve showed that there was something nefarious going on, and it had to do with some kind of cutoff of when they like check elections to make sure they're fair or not. And it's a full complicated video, but between that and some other guy on MSNBC saying they dumped votes primarily of Black and young people that tend to skew Democratic, and Trump himself, I've seen him twice on video saying that he didn't expect to win and be president during the Olympics, but they rigged the election, and now he's going to be president during the election. Like, there are 2 videos of him saying the election were rigged. Is anyone looking into this and preparing for the midterms? Because we talk a lot about getting the power back in Congress, and if we can't do it because there's something nefarious going on, we need to know and we need to fight back.
So, you know, the short answer really on this is that as soon as Biden was elected, he did a full investigation with the Department of Justice to look for and seek out if there was any voter fraud that took place in that election. So I feel very confident that there was no voter fraud. I mean, there might be, a miscount of a couple of votes here and there, but generally across the country that there was not. But that doesn't mean we should not get prepared for this election. And Republicans in Congress right now are already trying to screw with access to voting They have this bill called the SAVE Act now that says, everybody's going to have to provide proof of citizenship, proof of birth. It's just absolutely ridiculous. But I will say that twice the Republicans have noticed that they're going to put the SAVE Act on the floor, and then they pull it away because they don't have the votes for it. So that's good. That's good. I don't know whether the speaker is going to take a whip to them and force them into voting correctly, but that hasn't happened yet. And honestly, they have put it up for a vote on the floor twice and pulled it. So, but there's a lot more legislation out there that they have. It's really ugly stuff to make sure that almost anybody, it'll be so hard to get to the polls and vote. So we have to fight all of that. Now the good news is that most of that is controlled by the states. So, state by state by state. I'm sure there's some red states that we're going to have to look after and be aware of, but it is primarily controlled around the states.
Did you answer her question though? Because
well, I thought I did.
No, she's asking about there are a lot of allegations swimming around about voter fraud in 2020.
Yeah, right. Those are all Trump talking points.
No. Susan was asking about some allegations that this past election was rigged in favor of Trump.
Indeed.
Because of so if you
I know, but that's why I'm sort of saying it's Trump talking points because he didn't know whether he was going to get elected, and so it was voter fraud in the event that he didn't get elected. The 2024 election?
Yes.
I don't know.
I have. Can I throw in something? I'm sorry, but this is really relevant. I work with the chief supply chain officer of a major Fortune 500 company, and a bunch of the colleagues were up on the Hill speaking to someone on Capitol Hill. She did not specify who, and they said that right before the election, they were trying to do predictive analysis about shipping and distribution and what like volatility, like what happened during the pandemic. And someone on the Hill said to her, this is a quote, "There is no scenario in which Trump does not win." Then they told her who he would elect to all of the cabinet posts. And then they told her by 2028, China would seize Taiwan. And she said every single thing that this guy said, or these people said, came true. And so that begs the question, how can you say that with certainty like that unless you know that something is rigged?
Right. No, I misspoke because I got my dates confused. So I kind of apologize for that. But yeah, I hear you, and I don't know, and we should be investigating that, but it's not going to get investigated given who's in control right now. But it's even beyond corruption on our homeland. I'm sure that Russia had influence in this election. China probably had influence in this election as well. So there's corruption going on. But I don't have a good answer except to say I hear you, and we've got to be vigilant about it, and we've got to do everything we can do. And we're not likely going to go backwards here, but moving forward, that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen again.
What are you doing to keep that from happening again?
Well,
2026. I'm sorry, but 2026 is a long way off. They are moving fast. Anything can happen between now and then. We may not have an election in 2026. Or 2028. What are the Democrats doing concrete to make sure that that doesn't happen, to make sure to do everything we can to stop Trump?
And Musk.
What are the Democrats doing concrete actions?
look, I hear you in this, and I can tell you that we have bills moving forward. Will they get to the floor for a vote? No.
That's not enough.
It's not enough. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So we have a corrupt Department of Justice that's not going to look into it. So we're kind of in this horrible spot. And I hear you saying, Congress should be doing something about this. And I think we're trying to do something about it, but going up against an administration that has, a Republican in the White House and Republican majorities in the House and Senate, it's like paddling upstream.
But what about daily messaging,
Representative
Brownley? And I appreciate you being here, but a lot of us are wondering, who is going to be out there with daily messaging?
Yes. Yes. Thank you for speaking up and saying that, because that is the tool that we have. And we have all of your voices around us also. We need to do that. I don't want to come off sounding like I want to postpone that for another month or two because we've got lots of battles over here. No, you're right. And I think I disagree with the woman who said the next election is way far away. I think it's right around the corner. So we have to be vigilant about it. And I think you're right. Our voices are the best solution that we probably have at this point. I think otherwise, I think we can kind of look out to third-party folk outside of Congress who can look into fraud and abuse and so forth as well. So
Okay. I'm gonna nip the comments from the audience in the bud right now. It's all on me, so you can blame me all day. But I want to get back to the questions that people have because they cover a whole range of topics, and I'm sure that some of what you are hoping to scream out will get covered.
But let me just say, I hear you, and I can tell that everyone basically in this room generally agrees with what you're saying. And so I hear you, and I'm going to take that back and talk about that amongst my Democratic
Okay, before Britta asks her question, I want to call it the next round of questions. We've got a half hour left to this town hall, folks. So not every question that I've got sitting in front of me is going to get asked, but let's try to get through as many as we can. So after Britta, we want to hear from Todd H. from Westlake Village, Brian P. from Thousand Oaks, Stacy L. from Newbury Park, and David S. from Thousand Oaks. So Britta, please go ahead.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for coming in person. Meeting, and that was also good, but this is very important.
But let me say, I probably will be doing more telephone town halls as well, because I'm in Washington a lot, and we had 9,000 people on that call, and there's not a place in the county where we can fit 9,000 people. So, and we'll be doing more of these also, but I'm just saying
I think that you're absolutely correct when you call this a John Lewis moment.
Yeah.
John Lewis was arrested 40 times. One more. John Lewis, through nonviolent resistance, publicly, actively, and disruptively protested. We cannot bring his name up unless we're going to say one of two things. One, we'll never see his like again. Or two, we need to become his like. everything that we have seen from here, out of Washington, from the Democratic Party has been, milk toast is a word that comes up a lot.
Yeah.
Bland, soft.
Yes.
Hakeem Jeffries, I don't know what the man is thinking. I really don't. We don't know exactly who the other leaders are that are often mentioned as Hakeem and the other, leaders right now. We want to support, but how can we? We are out in the street and we are protesting.
Yeah, we are. Right.
A lot of us have not, I have not been out protesting before, by the way. This is my first time. But particularly, the State of the Union was a complete debacle because optics matter. Optics matter because they inspire us to act, but they also teach the other side who we are.
Right.
That was ridiculous. It was laughable. Thank you for leaving. I appreciate it. Something much more demonstrative and much stronger, because honestly, the rollover that Schumer then later did was completely played out in that moment.
Right.
They knew they could get it. Thank you to Congress for standing strong, but the Senate did not. And they knew they could get it. So what I'm saying is, what was that? Why did they not stand up and do something?
You're talking about the Senate now?
I'm specifically talking about moments like the State of the Union, where you are on television, you have a huge platform to the entire world. And that was what was chosen. And I understand people were trying to fall in line, they were trying to be united. That is not the responsibility.
No.
So I'd like to have that, please. Representative Jeffries, stand up or stand aside, please.
Yep.
And for everyone else.
Thank you. And if I had been in charge, I would have said for all of us to get up and walk.
Yeah.
We're not agreeing. Thank you, John Lewis. When things were going bad, we had a sit-in on the House floor. I have the great privilege of being able to serve with John Lewis for 6 years. It's near and dear to my heart, and been to Selma, walk the bridge. I always say to people when I talk about it, and I talk about it a lot on Martin Luther King Day, but walking that bridge is, you really, when you're walking that bridge, you cannot see what's on the other side until you get to the crest of the bridge. And he kept walking, just an amazing, amazing man. And what Chuck Schumer did, and what the Senate did, again, I said it in my opening comments, but there are not that many moments. And you're right, the State of the Union was one of those moments. And we had a point of leverage here. And if the government shut down, he was so afraid that we were going to get blamed for it. I'm sorry. The Republican is in the White House. The Republicans are in the House. The Republicans are in the Senate. They are responsible. There was a lot that was given away in that continuing resolution. They say, oh, it's just a continuation of what it was before. That's not true. That is not true. There were giveaways in that, and particularly, most budgets would say, give line item, line item, line item, line item. You're going to spend this much for this, and this much for this, and this much for this, and that's what you do. But this is just like, Department of Education. Well, maybe that's not a good example, but Department of Energy, you're going to get X amount of dollars, and just go ahead and spend it the way you want to spend it, or don't spend it at all. So, we lost a lot on that vote, but that's behind us now. We've got to move forward, and we've got to we've got to be united, and we can't make the same mistakes we've made before.
We've got to be loud.
Let's keep keep going. We've got 20 minutes left. Congresswoman Brown's time is valuable, as is yours. So let's plow through. Next up is Todd H. from Muslim Village.
I'm deeply disturbed by Trump's hostility towards our traditional allies. What are you doing to support U.S. alliances with Canada, Denmark, NATO, and Ukraine? How can we help?
Yes, going to the streets, but let me give my best answer that I can under the circumstances. And, for all of these countries, and certainly NATO as well, they're on the Hill all the time. I mean, I meet with, the diplomats from Canada, likewise with, and we've traveled to various countries as well. I've been to Denmark, I've been to Norway, mainly on clean energy stuff, but it is, but we are traveling now, given that now we have Trump and what the reality is. So we've met with, like I said, folks from Canada on the Hill. I can't tell you how many times I've met with Ukrainians from, a pretty high level with the country. Obviously, the president of Ukraine came and spoke in the State of the Union under the Biden administration. But I've met with soldiers. I've met just families, families who the Russians have taken their children. I mean, so what I guess I'm trying to say here is I think that these countries understand why this is happening. And, it's Donald Trump, it is why it's happening, but the rest of America doesn't feel that way. And I will say even there are Republicans in Congress, there are many there's still Republicans that wear their Ukrainian flag and the United States flag,
Take it off.
And there are many Republicans who believe that Russia is the enemy, not the ally. They believe that China is a very big threat to our country. I've been to Taiwan. I know how the Taiwanese feel and their fear. So I've just actually in the last couple of months I met with a member of parliament from the there's a sort of I think it's the EU Parliament, member of Parliament. We've been talking a lot about methane reduction and how our countries can work together with the border and what we can do around methane. So all I can say really to you is that we are making our voices heard to the international community and to our allies. We will continue to do that. The continuing resolution did have money in there for foreign affairs and military defense. So I think it's still up for question, what the Republican leadership will do. The chair of foreign affairs, for example, and the chair of DOD, or the committee that oversees that. So I don't know what they're going to do yet. But we're working with them, and we will continue to work with them. We'll just have to see sort of how that goes. But again, it's about common theme here. It's about our voices, and it's about our voices in Congress, knowing that it's a very, very small margin between the Democrats and the Republicans, and there's a lot of support for our allies in those countries. A lot of support, and there are some still Republican support, and we've got to, continue to support those Republicans in that direction. I think this battle is yet to be seen, if you will. But the most important thing is that the allies do know that if Trump disappears, we are back to the country that we have always been.
Yes.
I would just say as a sidebar, I'm glad the NATO countries are coming together and putting more resources into their own defense. I think that's critical, certainly at this time. But I think the battle's not over yet on that. Not the best answer in the world, but the best one I can give at the moment.
Okay, folks. I'm going to shuffle the questions here. These last three questions from people who are up are going to be our last three questions because we've only got 16 minutes. Stacy, I'm saving your question for last, if that's okay. Brian Key from Thousand Oaks, please go next.
And I'm going to throw a wrench in things and just update my question a little. What can the Democratic Party do to reach the young, disaffected voters who were successfully courted by the Republicans in the last election? What message should the party be sending out right now?
First, just let me say, we didn't lose by that much. So, I think our message obviously didn't get out to the people in a way that we wanted it to do. We were talking about bringing prices down and, it's the economy and healthcare. I don't think we talked enough to our young people. Young people they can't, their rents are high, they can't afford to buy a home, it's hard, they can't afford to buy a car, they obviously care about prices. We've got to do a better job, and I will tell you that we got completely outsmarted in this last campaign because the Republican Party was going on to social media, talking to young people who don't think about politics at all, and feeding them with their rhetoric. And those people got charged up because somebody's going to do something for me. They're going to make housing affordable. They're going to bring housing down. And that's where we got taken on that. And so I think going into the next election, we're going to be smarter about that. But that's what they did. They just took over social.
Why did they figure it out?
And we didn't.
If you had told us beforehand what we should have done, we would have done. No, so we are well aware of that in terms of what needs to be done in order to reach out to young people, particularly. And I think it's about Latino men. It's about African American men. These are places where we lost votes. There were about 3% of voters who voted for Biden and then shifted and voted for Trump. And that's about 3%. Those are the people that we've got to bring back to the fold. The MAGA people are, they're not going to come along anytime soon. Go ahead.
If I may, I think it's not so much how we say it to them or what we say to them, it's what's done for them. They continually are being told, well, you just think you're not in better financial shape than you are. But I think something needs to be done demonstrably that lets them know their concerns are our concerns.
Absolutely. I have to say there was $100 million that was in the IRA bill that the Republicans and Mr. Manchin over on the Senate side, refused to keep in the bill, which would have really helped around housing, across the board. Student loans is another thing. I mean, now they're completely, with the Department of Education that oversees the student loans, they're totally screwing it up and giving it to the Small Business Administration to handle. They're not going to be able to handle this. And my son's a doctor. He has medical school loans, and he was able to defer a lot of loans under the Biden administration. But he's scared to death that they're just going to come after him and say, you got to pay these big, huge lump sums now.
Yep.
The kids are back
yes,
so we're hoping
we've got, your point is well taken, that we've got to do things. And I think we were trying to do things, and I think Biden was trying to do things around student loans, et cetera, to talk to younger people. But we've got to do more, and we've got to make sure we can get it done.
Filibuster, maybe?
Filibuster.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. David S. has the next question, and I may piggyback on it.
Hello, Congresswoman. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
I cannot imagine how painful it is to be a member of a minority in the House of Representatives. Let me say we're very appreciative for your passion, and we're very happy that you are our representative. Having said that, we know that Republicans always march in lockstep. They always have traditionally, and Democrats have always been more or less herding cats, to use an expression. But this is a different world, and the rules are very different right now. We're in a different reality. Why can't the Democrats coalesce?
Right.
Why can't they form a united opposition?
Right.
I would like to just jump in onto that a little bit and ask specifically, what's your sense of your House colleagues' attitudes right now toward Senate leadership? Do you still find Chuck Schumer to be a trustworthy partner?
So, your question first. Tell me the question again. I just want to make sure that
Yeah, it's really why can't the Democrats form a coherent, united opposition?
Yes. Look, we're 62 days into this. It's been a fire hose of crap coming out. That's part of the strategy. And so we have got to get to a place where we have a solid message that we're going to take to the American people. There's no question about that. And I think we're getting there, honestly. And I think the message is going to really center around the economy and healthcare. As kind of the two big things that we have to keep driving home to folks. There are so many other things, education, environment, you name it, Social Security, and Social Security will be part of the debate without question. But I think it's going to boil down to those two things, and that is healthcare and the economy, and bringing the economy to a place where young people have a chance. People who have access to the ladder towards the middle class, all of that. I think that will be our message: economy and healthcare. So and that could change, but I think that's where we're seeing the most responses in terms of all of the research and so forth that has been going on so far internally within the party. Your question is, did I answer your question?
Well, you did, but the question is, why can't they all get together? Are you suggesting that in these two areas there's a possibility to bring everyone together?
Correct. Yeah. In terms of our messaging, it's in terms of every Democratic member. in Congress, for those folks who are running for Congress, Democratic candidates who are running for Congress, saying, you know, we have to be in concert with the Senate on this, because sometimes they don't, you know, they don't go along. They seem to have another, you know, believes that maybe they should think about it a little bit more. I don't know. But it's, yeah, I mean, I think that's what we're trying to do, is get everybody on the same page and singing the same tune as we go forward. So we drill these messages in, and it's also, the contrast is tax breaks for billionaires.
Yeah.
You have, you know, the richest man on the planet with no authority whatsoever, going through and making all of these cuts to ensure that his buddy and himself as well can just get richer and richer. I mean, voters are not going to be happy with that, and I think as time goes on, there are going to be more and more voters who say, I didn't vote for that. I didn't vote for my Medicare to get cut. I didn't vote for my Social Security to get cut. You know, I didn't vote to disassemble my schools that my children go to. You know, so everything that reflects around people's livelihoods and family, but I think those are embedded in the economy and health. Those being the top line deals. On the Schumer situation, you know, I think the reality is, you know, in Washington, the loudest voices House Democrats have, he doesn't give a damn about what Democrats. House Democrats say, wait. So he doesn't care what we say. He cares about what his senators.
And his donors.
Well, but he cares about his senators and where they are. But I think we've got to continue to speak up and speak
Put
out.
Bernie in.
Put
Bernie in.
She will be 35 in 2027.
Just to finish this thought, though, I think we need to continue to speak out on it. And I'm already sensing that some senators are beginning to shift.
Unintended.
You gotta start somewhere. Yeah, right? So again, the common theme here is the power is with the people, and all of us have to speak
We're
out.
asking you to speak out regarding Chuck Schumer, please.
Well, I'm just trying to right now.
What senators are, you ask him to resign as majority leader.
Yeah.
Well, yes, she's in the House.
I don't really, I mean,
Right.
I think the Senate should consider new leadership.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good answer. All right, Stacy, you get the last question, as promised.
Okay, this is going to be the best one.
No pressure.
What is the most effective way that we citizens can voice our opposition to Trump and Scum's destruction of our democracy and economy?
The other question said Musk. How do you change this?
So that's a perfect question to close on.
See?
Because the best thing you can do is to hit the streets. And talk to your friends and talk to your neighbors. And I get in my opening comments, it doesn't matter if you're even a small group. It doesn't matter. But people are sitting in their homes right now. They're not here. They're at home. And they're feeling helpless and alone and scared. And we've got to bring them out. And have them understand that the power, they have lots of power, and they have got to come and join us. And this has to happen across the country. And California counts. So people don't think that, oh, we in California, we don't really need to. Yes, we need to. Election in California. So, I mean, there's already Republicans thinking about running for governor as well. So, but we've got to hit the streets. We've got to be loud. We know what we can do. We kill the Republicans from killing the Affordable Care Act. We can do this, and we've got so much material to do it with. It's just so much material. And again, I think we've just got to be out there and to convince people. Not everybody we're going to convince, but we have to convince enough people who voted for him that said, no, this is not what I voted for, and I'll never vote for him again. And that's going to be important. And we're going to have, there's going to be more and more Democrats who are thinking about running here for governor, but other Democrats thinking about running for president, and they're going to start to emerge here pretty soon. So we're going to have a consolidation, I think, of voices amongst leadership. We need a consolidation of voices from the people.
Congresswoman Brownley has to get to her next event. She's got to go back to Washington.
I can stay a few minutes to talk to people. But
okay, there you go. See, she's blown her schedule. Before you walk out, I want to thank Scott and Megan from Indivisible. Democratic groups that are here. I really want to thank all of you. Those of you who didn't get your questions asked, hopefully you can pigeonhole Congresswoman Brownley for a minute and get your questions answered. And especially
well, everyone's still here, and we're